we were in negotiations.
We're investing in real estate.
They're winning, they're making money.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Estate Educators Podcast, where we provide the education you can build on. I am your host, Kevin Amolsch. This podcast has been so much fun to produce, put together, because I'm helping real estate investors and real estate educators. So if you're out there buying properties, rentals, fixing and flipping, or if you're out there educating investors, maybe you're trying to provide some value to them to get some business or something, this is the podcast for you. I know you're going to have a great time listening in today because I'm excited to get to know our guests a little bit better. We haven't actually spent much time together, so this is going to be a lot of fun for me as well. And when you do enjoy the podcast, give us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. So, Derek, I do know this. You are a prolific real estate investor in the Denver area. I'm surprised we haven't really got to know each other better to this point. I've been doing this for about 20 years in Denver. I know you're an executive, sports medicine executive. You worked for the Broncos, CBS. You had some pretty cool corporate jobs, and then you decided to become a real estate and finance entrepreneur. I also know you have a lot of clients and a lot of students, and you really do focus in on adding value and creating wealth for yourself and the people around you. So let's dig in, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's great to be with you. You're right. I know we've met, here and there kind of quickly in passing, and I was doing a little bit of research for the show, and we have 223 mutual connections. So we know a lot of the same people, but you're right. We haven't spent a lot of time. So this is great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, well, take me back, because you got started kind of a interesting, I was going to say weird, but that's not fair.
No,
it was an
interesting
way that you got into the business. Most real estate investors that I know got into the business from either reading that Purple Bible written by Kiyosaki, or from having friends or families like their own rich dad, right? That got them into it. But you saw an opportunity, it sounds like, through the crash of 2008, and you literally jumped in at the exact right time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you teeing that up. I mean, it definitely makes me look smarter than I am with revisionist history of going back and getting in 2008, 2009. And I think I was honestly just super lucky that it was the perfect storm, meaning the real estate market was obviously crashing and significantly tanking in Denver. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that it was a bloodbath. But weirdly, I didn't know any different because I was very blessed to have a good corporate job. I knew how challenging the overall economy was because by that time I had just left the Denver Broncos. As you mentioned, I spent 6 seasons with the team doing corporate sponsorship sales and marketing. And I used to actually office out of the stadium, and I would look up at Federal, and I would actually say I only was lucky enough to have a couple meetings with Mr. Bolin. Wasn't tight enough to call Mr. B like some of my bosses, but I was like, why are we not buying everything? Like, you guys can afford it. Mr. Bolin just didn't want to go that route. Real estate wasn't necessarily his thing. And then I moved over to CBS television and started selling advertising during all the sports programming. And we were on Lincoln and 11th, and there was kind of like a crazy repossessed building across the street from the TV studio. And when one of my buddies and I would kind of get beat up by our sales director, I was like, someday I'm going to buy that damn building and get out of this, even though I liked it. And so, I met one of my fellow ad executives, and she was far less stressed out. She was driving a lot nicer car, and I knew what her TV sales were. So I took her to lunch one day, and her name is Diane, and she's totally one of my mentors. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she was buying turnkey rental properties from a company that was just crushing it, buying everything they could at auction, fixing it up, putting a renter in there, and then us buying it as a turnkey rental property. So that's kind of how I got into my journey. And I knew it was scary, but I'm like, there's no way houses should be this cheap. I mean, we bought our first one for $102,000 over by Fitzsimmons. So I was like, I just got to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to correct myself here. I said sports medicine because I misread that. It's sports management. So your background was on, like, you were in like the marketing side, marketing and sales side, it sounds like.
Yeah, I was. I definitely had a passion for the first part, the medicine, growing up as a kid. But no, I got my MBA from University of Florida in sports management, and then used that to parlay that into a job. So yeah, I did the first 2 seasons after the stadium opened. It's changed so many times. I just call it Mile High with the name on the building. But I sold the luxury suites and the club seats for 2 seasons. And then I moved over to the marketing department and did all the corporate sponsorship sales. So Coca-Cola, Budweiser, State Farm, Papa John's, Breaks Plus, companies like that, and did that for 4 more seasons before going on the media side and doing television.
I was on that freaking wait list for 18 years, Derek.
I feel bad.
18 years to get my season
I
tickets.
I feel bad laughing only because we were season ticket holders in the 80s. My family lived here for a while in the 80s. And then I was very blessed when you got there. They knew that they paid you crap. And so they're like, ooh, we'll give you season tickets as a compensation. So that was nice. So we got in and got season tickets. And luckily I was able to keep those even after I left. So we've had a couple seats for a long time. And we were talking off camera. It's who knows? I'm not gonna count my chickens before they hatch, but at least it's optimism and maybe there's a quarterback. So who knows? But I
Yeah.
still do love it and have some buddies there.
Except for at the time we're recording this, I think he threw for 80 yards total in the game, something like that. So, but look, I'm excited about it too. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so you left what some people would consider like almost a dream job, man. You're working for the Denver Broncos. That's pretty awesome. And then I know you moved, you had another stint over there with the TV station,
Mhm.
but then you got into real estate. So it was a mentor that kind of got you going. What is she doing? Look how successful she is. Do I got that right?
Yeah, and it was a couple different factions of getting into it. It was the person who I was working with at CBS, and then it was also this perfect combination of my father-in-law as well as is a mentor on the real estate side. So he has been in Montana for gosh, almost 50 years. My wife was born and raised in a smaller town of Great Falls, Montana. We met at school at Montana State University. So he was a great entrepreneur all along and was I mean, he was brokering land in Wyoming early on. He then kind of settled in Great Falls because of the Air Force. So he is in the mini storage business. He's owned a self storage facility for a long time, owned apartment complexes. Did never really did flips, but it was kind of funny. I think most people in 2008 9 would probably never borrow money from their in laws to get going in the rental business. But I was saving and I bought one, and I was like, this is going to take me forever, even having a fairly successful quote unquote corporate job. And so he was like, you know what? I've got, kind of a non-used line of credit on one of his properties. He's like, let's go in, I'll front you the down payment money. Let's buy more of these turnkeys. And so from really '09 through about 13, we bought two fourplexes, duplex and a single family. And as we all say, I wish I would have bought double, triple, whatever
Right.
else. So he helped me get in. And then my dad, I come from a finance family. I'm originally from New Jersey and New York. And so everybody on my family was in Wall Street. And so when I left the corporate world, I thought I wanted to do my own thing, which I did, and it was great. And my dad and I started a boutique finance company together. So I'm really lucky in that, like, I have this weird, like, corporate experience in sales and marketing. I've got real estate mentorship from my father-in-law, and then I've got market mentorship from my dad. And that's kind of what helps kind of cultivate my investment thesis and how we try to run things today.
And you've done very well with it, it sounds like. So you turnkey, I want to make sure I
Mhm.
understand that because some
Yes.
people might think it's different than others.
Yeah.
So turnkey to me is it's already remodeled. Somebody else went in there and fixed it up. They fixed and flipped it to you, and you're renting it out and keeping it long term. I got that right?
Yeah. Yep, that is spot on. We were working with a company that was buying them at the county court steps, buying them 20, 30, 40 at once. To your point, renovating it to really nice rental quality. So me as an investor, I'm like, I probably won't have to touch these for 5 or 10 years on the repair side. Getting a renter in it. So I truly am buying a turnkey asset. You're spot on, Kevin.
All right. And then you now have gotten into the remodel business. So you went to the other side and started fixing and flipping. And that was what, 5, 6 years into your career, I think?
Yeah, it was. And so we did the rentals for a handful of years, did that kind of as my side hustle, and then got into the municipal bond business with my dad. So I left. Yes, I was kind of burnt out on always setting record sales numbers, but having the CEO say, "Hey, we're going to cut your commissions again." And I was like, "I'm no rocket scientist, but I think it's time to leave corporate
We're
America."
going backwards here.
Um, we're going backwards, and it was funny. I always remember one year my director of sales called me in, and I thought, "Oh crap, I might be in trouble." And he says, "I don't know how you did it, but you figured it out." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it's kind of weird in that they wanted salespeople to drive the nicest cars, to have boats, to have all this consumer debt because they kind of had the golden handcuffs on you because you made nice six figures and you worked on commission. But but you were kind of beholden to that job. And so I was like, yeah, I don't need to do that. And he didn't know behind the scenes I'm buying all these rental properties. And so it just kind of worked out that I went over to the finance side, and then we did that. My dad and I did that for 2 years. Wasn't really my passion. I really enjoyed it. I loved owning our own business. I got a Series 7 and Series 63 securities license. So it made me a better investor, but my heart was not there. And so the way we got into flipping properties was in 2000, late 2014, and we sold our first one in 15. As I said, well, the market closes at 2 o'clock in Denver time. Let me start rehabbing some houses. So I started to do that. And quickly after, like a perfect storm of their third flip going really, really well in 2015, and then the bond market getting destroyed, we had to sell out of a position, and we actually took a $287,000 loss in one day.
Oh,
And I kind of
wow.
looked at my dad and I was like, "You're the dude that's done this for 40 years. Like, what did we just do?" And it was just, kind of a bad trade. And so the things happen for a reason, and real estate was going well. So I'm like, let's just close the bond brokerage and let's go real estate investing full time.
Much easier, right? I mean, you're a finance guy. You have all these
Mhm.
licenses and education, and it's still difficult.
Yes. It is. Yeah, you're right. It's funny because one of my brothers is trying to day trade and figure this stuff out. I'm like, dude, you're so far behind the eight ball. We could barely make it, and we were fairly educated, and to your point, had licenses and had good kind of corporate backing. And yeah, that the day trader, I don't know how they do it,
That's
honestly.
scary. I mean, you're going against robots. Like these guys, they're smarter than you. I
Yes.
promise.
Yes, yes, and they have deeper pockets, and they can take losses, or if they need to hit their stock numbers to make their stock move, which is billions, if not trillions of dollars, they're going to liquidate from a position and take a loss where you're trying to make, 10 grand that day or that week or that month. Like it just, in my opinion, sadly doesn't work. I'm a market proponent for the long term. I think it's a great
Sure.
box to check, and I'm never a real estate guy that never has exposure to the market. But no, I'm with you. I think the deck is stacked against them.
Yeah. Index funds, right? That's all
Yes.
I do.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah. Index funds and real estate, because real estate, you have more control. The market moves slower so that you could react to it. And as you do, you could force it to go up in value.
Mhm. Well said. Yeah, I agree 100%.
All right. So you're fixing and flipping. Now you have other things going on. You have all of these years of experience.
Mhm,
Turnkey rentals, great way to get started, by the way.
mhm.
And
Yep.
then fixing and flipping. And you're still fixing and flipping now, if I understand right.
We are, yeah, that is still kind of the bread and butter in our core business. And it's funny because fix and flip is such a common term. It's great for SEO. We actually like to call it property redevelopment. And it's because we don't do new builds. I don't do scrapes. I've only done a couple pop tops and they were mediocre. So we are your bread and butter. Take an existing home, might be as extensive as a $250,000 remodel where we're taking it down to the studs and pulling permits and doing the whole nine. Or it might be something that's a little more cosmetic in nature where you're in and out in a month and you're doing a condo. But yeah, we are classically flipping right now, and that's our bread and butter still to this day.
All right. We have a lot of our audiences in Denver and Colorado and in Minnesota. We pull from those two markets the
Oh yeah.
most. So there's a lot
Okay.
of people in Colorado that's going to be listening to this. So
Okay.
tell me, man, how are you finding projects in such a challenging inventory environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I try to kind of compartmentalize it into, 1 or 2 years pre-COVID. Then we have that outlier of COVID of deal sourcing. And then we had, I hope, another kind of outlier of rates going through the roof and being crazy for, the last 2 years roughly, and then where it'll go. So we've kind of rode this crazy wave in that pre-COVID, we were getting half of our deals on market and just writing a tremendous amount of offers on the MLS. We got 50% of our deals on the MLS. The other 50% we got off market. Then when we went into the crazy COVID years, we ended up getting probably about 80% of our deals off market through a handful of different marketing channels. I kind of got spoiled in that every deal we did, we kind of underwrote it, knowing that I'm a sports guy by heart. Is, let's use a baseball analogy. We went in just trying to hit a double, like we were not swinging for the fences. And then everything became a home run. Like, we are very, very sensitive to knowing we are not the smartest people in the room, and the market was out of control. And I probably should have still put my pedal to the metal and doubled down on my marketing, but when every deal became $100,000 plus net profit for about an 18-month time frame, like, we were doing so good and I was getting in other things. I was like, let's just not rock the boat. And then fast forward to the middle of 2022, when interest rates went crazy. We're now gravitating kind of back to being very seasonally focused, meaning in Q3 and Q4, we're having more success doing on market deals because there's inventory right now. And then in Q1 and Q2, we're very heavy focused on off market. And our number one, really our number two ways that we're finding deals is one, we have a pretty extensive cold calling operation from a third party company that we use that does a ton of cold calling on our behalf. And then our folks locally dive in and pick the ball up and run with it. And then it sounds silly, but people get away from old school business relationships and networking. That is barely 1A of how we get our deals of working with other real estate agents, working with other investors, working with other wholesalers back and forth. So those are two bread and butter and sweet spots of how we're getting our deals. And I would honestly love to see it get back to the way it was in 18 and 19 of like half on market, half off market. We're still investing more in off market, but that's where we're at right now.
So this is awesome, man. I haven't heard anyone break it down quite like this. So that's
Okay,
really
good.
fascinating to hear. And you guys started not buying at the auction, but you got your deals through the auction indirectly. Do you
Mhm.
think that that's going to be an opportunity coming? Like I keep hearing people talk about these foreclosures that are coming. I'm not necessarily seeing that, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm kind of a data nerd and I really like to lean back on data. I want my gut to help me kind of get my opinion over the finish line, but we're dialed into a number of title companies and to your point, Kevin, of the auctions pre-foreclosure in all of Metro Denver. Last week, I think there were 62 total properties that were in pre-foreclosure, let alone foreclosure, and our MSA or our market of Denver Boulders, almost 3 million people. So to directly answer your question, I don't think there's a chance in hell that we're going back to the foreclosure days because everybody has equity. What people forget about was during 8, 9, and 10 is we had this monstrous wave of inventory coupled with being underwater or no equity. Now, I saw some crazy stat probably 3 or 4 months ago in a presentation that only 4% of distressed sellers have less than 30% equity in their home. So they could literally call a real estate agent, it'll probably sell anyways, or they could search online for people, sell my house fast, and hopefully I pop up or whoever pops up. Like they'll have 30 people at their front doorstep. So I really don't see that happening in Colorado anytime soon. And we're at, 10-year highs for inventory. So I just don't see the data. And then I put kind of my common sense hat on. I go, I don't see it.
Yeah, if you're waiting for that, you're gonna be waiting a while.
I agree.
And you're going to miss out a lot. You keep
Yeah.
hearing housing crashes coming. We've been hearing that for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. So you
Mhm.
went through COVID. If anything's going to do it, it's that.
Yep.
And what do we see? The exact opposite of 40%. It's over 40% increase since COVID, almost 50% increase in value
It's
median.
crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It does help with a huge injection of capital, but
Yes. Yes. Well said. But
it
yes, that's
is,
true.
it is real. So if you were waiting for that crash and you didn't buy, you just missed out on 40 to 50% appreciation, which is staggering. All right, now
Yeah.
let's get into how you're helping build wealth for your clients. I know you're doing some like, is it a coaching program? And it sounds like it might be pretty structured. So I don't know. I definitely want to hear about this.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. We've got a couple different ways. I'm a huge proponent of let's put up out as much content and as much value and do as much free stuff, if you will, as possible. So we've got 3 or 4 different 1 hour classes that we teach, and we teach them all over, whether it's through a meetup. At our co-work space, we own a co-work space called the Broadway Collective. So now we have this cool place where we can host these classes. I work with different title companies and try to teach as much of that as possible. But then if people really want to kind of dive deep, we have what's called the Elevation Academy. And that kind of was my baby that I created. Talk about the other end of the spectrum of bad timing. We put tons of time and energy and planning and everything into launching this education division, having things in person because I love to teach in person. And COVID hits, and I was like, "Damn it, I missed timing on that one." So we kind of kicked the can down the road a little bit, but we've been doing it for 4 years now, and we typically host them quarterly. They're 1 day, very, very intense trainings. And I actually just had one Friday. So whenever this comes out, it'll be within a week or two probably. And we kind of like to keep them small and intimate. They're on average about 25 clients. And we teach people everything. We teach people how to, most importantly, make sure it's a good deal, how to turn down the crappy deals and not waste your time. Really heavy into deal analysis. Then it's finding the deals as well, on market, off market. But probably the bread and butter, about 60%, is how to effectively run the project. Whether it's your one person show or you've got a staff of 10, we dive into the fixture and finish package. So I also kind of had this weird epiphany where I would be like watching HGTV and my kids would say, Dad, why are you yelling at the TV? And it's because I hated to see people wander around and say, like, well, what do we do? And we need an inspiration board. And I'm like, this is insane. So we actually created a spreadsheet, and we have 6 ways that we finish out houses. And it has every single thing that you put in the house, from the faucet to the doorstop to the color of paint to how you lay the tile. And then you rinse and repeat. And then we change it once a year. Like, I'm kind of a systems guy. And then how do you sell it effectively on the back end? So it's been a really cool thing that we get a great cross section of agents, of investors, both experienced and inexperienced, and contractors. And I love it. It's been great. So we do that quarterly. It's called the Elevation Academy.
So is there any ongoing support, or is it the 1-day class and then you're off on your own?
Yeah, good question. Early on, it was the 1-day thing, but we were there for people. But I had taken a ton of education myself because I came from a marketing and a sales and a finance background. I didn't know anything about rehab. In fact, my wife, I think, was really freaked out when I could barely remodel our house and it was slow and it didn't look good. And she's like, "You're quitting a corporate job and you're going to flip houses." Um, and so to me, it was really, really important to not feel like you bring somebody in with a hook and then you sell them 5 different upskilled, insanely expensive education packages that, sadly, because I took most of them, I always kind of said no when it was the, $20,000, $50,000 package, because from the quote unquote gurus, it was stuff that was 5 or 6 years old and it wasn't even in our market. And so I took all that. I wanted it to stand on its own, but then we quickly realized people need more kind of support and help. And so now we've built out a staff. So we've got a senior project manager to help on, answering questions for rehab. We've got a sales manager, and we have a team of 10 agents that help our clients. So people get paired up one-on-one with one of our folks so that we can either help analyze deals, we can joint venture and partner on deals together, or a lot of times we're co-wholesaling between one another. So if somebody else is full or I'm full, vice versa, we buy and sell. So there's definitely ongoing training. And something that I'm personally looking to get into, I don't know if you've gone down this road, but we're trying to figure out how do we host this community in the future. And we're really trying to dig into a platform called School. It's spelled Skool. And it is just this great kind of way to facilitate an ongoing community. And we can have those multiple levels where if somebody wants to have, a $47 a month to get base level of help versus all the way to the academy or one-on-one consulting, we're trying to build that out. So sorry, long story short, we definitely have ongoing support, but we're trying to figure out how can we help the masses, because we bottleneck once in a while where
Mhm.
we've got a bunch of people need help, and I'm like, oh crap, even my whole team, we're running out of time. So we're trying to figure out how do we build the community and support the masses. I think we're good at the top. We need to get a little better at the base.
This episode is brought to you by Pine Financial Group. Pine Financial is a private lender specializing in short-term rehab lending to real estate investors. Got a property that needs some love? We can help. We are able to offer funding solutions because we raise private money from individual investors. With more than 15 years of experience, Pine offers passive investors an alternative that provides stability, consistency, and security to your portfolio. If you like real estate but want to avoid the ups and downs and effort, a Pine mortgage fund could be a perfect fit for you. Accredited investors will experience an 8% preferred return and profit sharing. Diversify your portfolio out of Wall Street and into Main Street with a Pine Financial Group mortgage fund. Get more information at pinefinancialgroup.com. That's pinefinancialgroup.com. Yeah, the one-to-many is much more scalable than the one-on-one.
Well said.
So here, how do I ask this question to you? Let me think about this. If you're coaching, you're helping, you're teaching, usually I see it go one of 2 ways. Either you're in it to make money,
Mhm.
which I appreciate totally because I buy from them, right? I want to learn also. I'm always learning. So I think that's a good model. Or you're using it to lead gen. You're trying
Yep.
to get clients, get wholesale opportunities, get partnership opportunities. So if what I'm saying is true, and you can
Yeah.
disagree with me, please do if you think I'm offline here, but
Yeah.
if that's true, which of the two are you going to fall on? Because it kind of feels like maybe both.
No, actually, that's very intuitive. That's well said. It really is both. I think our number one lead is lead gen. I think a lot of people, when they come to the academy, they're like, "You're out of your mind. You're teaching your competition how you do things and everything that you do." And I say, "True," but they have to then go out and execute. So really, there's honestly, I feel like we're coming up on 9 years of full time investing, and I've only run into one time where I've been at the same property, and it's been either one of my students or one of my competitors. So it's Metro Denver. I don't really worry about that. I'd rather have, you're right, people bringing us deals because of our efficiency. The other thing, when we do joint venture on people's deals, our ability to run rehab and have great contractors and great vendors that give us good pricing that we're rinsing and repeating with, we're now really getting a lot of people who are both investors and agents themselves, where they're like, I'll still work with Elevation because I get a deal I would never otherwise see. They want to be more hands off. We'll run the deal for them. We'll do joint venture in the profit, and my folks will still sell it on the back end so they can do their core business. And so, yeah, it's definitely lead gen. Um, I was always a big proponent of making sure we're doing the thing instead of just teaching and talking about it. So we're still doing 90% of the thing or the business, and only 10% is education. I love your one to many. We'd like to grow that in the future, and it's ways we're expanding. But right now, it's a lead gen. It is creating more relationships. We're also looking for people to become part of our real estate team, which we can talk about later too. So it's just like lots of back scratching, and it's gone well so far.
Cool. But yeah, I don't know how much you know about Pine Financial. We've been in the same market for 20 years and haven't really
Yeah,
run into each other that much, but we built
yeah,
this company on education and providing content. So content
mhm,
marketing was what we call it. And
mhm.
I think, we do the Real Estate Investor Success Summit. We've done that for
Yes.
years. I think I started it the same year you bought your first property in like 2009. So that's when we
Yeah, I
were,
think I went to one of them actually. I can't remember which one, but it was at the PPA Center back in the
yeah, that's
day. I
right.
definitely went early on. So you were one of the many people that I'm like, I just got to go to everything. So that's awesome. It's still going.
Isn't that cool? And it's like 39 bucks, right? So we don't make any money on our
Yeah.
model is absolutely lead generation. We want to build relationships. And just like what you're saying, one, we make money doing deals. I'm a
Yeah.
deals guy. So I want to do a deal with you. I don't want to take your money and hope that you're successful. So that's
Yeah.
our model. The Success Summit is this November. It's Denver ISS. Sorry to get this little plug in, but
Yep.
denveriss.com. So if you're
Okay.
listening, check that out. 39 bucks, denveriss.com. Okay, so Derek, you said you want to talk about you're recruiting agents now, so you're
Mhm.
growing your team.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're passionate about real estate and real estate investing, especially on the fix and flip side, because that's really your niche, this might be a place I would want to hang a license or at least get to know you a little bit. So tell me about what you're doing with your real estate agents.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Kevin. And it's something that's just kind of organically happened over time, in that I first started the company where I was doing it all myself. Then I was able to bring on two staff members that focused on project management and sales, and they hung their license with an independent brokerage in town, and that was good. But then we quickly realized, with the amount of volume we were doing, it's a little bit of a tangent, but we were also working with hedge funds and doing institutional acquisitions for them too. So we were doing a ton of deal volume for about a 2 year period, and I was like, not to say I shouldn't make other people money, but I was really making other people a lot of money. But I never wanted to own my own brokerage. I'm actually not licensed. I'll never be licensed. I have the best of both worlds, and then I have an amazing wife, and she had just sold her high end wedding and event planning business right before COVID. And we landed this hedge fund client, and I was like, hey, do you want to get your real estate license? And she kind of looked at me sideways, and she's smarter than me anyways. So she did it. And long story short, we've created a team. So our folks, we do hang our licenses at EXP Realty. And we were with another independent brokerage for 5 years, and it was fine. But with EXP, we can kind of give people the best of both worlds. And you hit the nail right on the head. Whether somebody wants to be focused on investment real estate and working with investor clients and kind of taking a lot of the emotion out of real estate, not showing 100 houses from 5 p.m. on or on the weekends. It's more the numbers. Or if people want to be both the investor and the agent, and double end deals and keep some of that profit in house, we want folks to hang their license with us. So whether it's our team that really are kind of day to day phenomenal agents working with our investor clients, or what we call them in-house flippers, the people that are doing, whether it's 2 deals or 200 deals. We want people to hang their license with us because that's really all we do. And for us, it's just, buying and selling between one another, helping clients out, and it's all being built through EXP because now we're starting to launch in other markets across the country. And I just couldn't do that with a local brokerage.
Okay. And EXP's model, we had Aaron Lebovic on the show, and you know him, I'm sure,
Oh,
pretty
nice.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so the model, I want to say network marketing, but I don't know if that's a
yes.
fair term, but it is sort of like you build a line of people underneath you. And so if you get in now and then they're able to recruit, they just get a piece of each deal below them, right?
They do, and I think the way that I had it explained to me. So we've been with under the EXP Realty banner, if you will, for about 15 months, and it was interesting. We were approached 6 or 7 years ago from somebody at EXP, and you're right, it felt very recruiting, very you're right, multi-level marketing, one person at the top. Ironically, I had it explained to me that I thought was interesting. If you work for a company, there's one person at the top.
Yeah.
So really, we're all doing that anyways. And I kind of go back to my CBS example. Les Moonves, who is the CEO of CBS Television, that last year that I was there, he was number 2 on the list of biggest disproportionate amount of earnings. He cleared $47 million that year. And then I had sold, probably $4.7 million worth of advertising, and I was at the bottom of the pyramid. So I do think it's interesting. Like, we're all kind of in this pyramid. But I think back in the day, people were like, oh, if you just get one person, you get 500 people underneath you, you're going to make 500,000 a year and you're going to retire. That's obviously, I'll keep it PG. That's a bunch of crap. What we're trying to do is to make it so that either A, if you want to go that route, it's called agent attraction and revenue share. There are phenomenal opportunities through that. But as the worst case, if you just want to do more business, be able to actually earn your cap or your splits back in EXP stock options, and then work with people all across the country, it's kind of a no-brainer just as a traditional real estate agent or an investor focused agent. But we are building our own team. We've got 15 folks with us, either that are currently right on elevation right now, or some other folks in other markets. And you do earn a percentage of, with EXP, instead of giving all that back to the company, they then give some of that back to you, where you're earning between 1 and 4% per deal. And that does get good fast if you focus on that. But if not, only 8% of the people out there actually have one person below them. So 92% of EXP agents are just doing great deals. And 8% actually have some sort of recruitment piece to it. So yeah, I was pretty hesitant at first, but our eyes have been wide open. And to me, it's all about value. Like, if you're not a good real estate professional or a good investor, it doesn't matter what's at the bottom of your business card or the bottom of your sign.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I have no interest in being an agent either. So I think you and I share that.
Yeah.
If I did, I would look at EXP 100% because of the way the model is. So when I say network marketing, I mean, that has a negative annotation or whatever, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's negative at all. In fact, I was a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the Purple
Yeah.
Bible. He
Yeah.
is a big fan of network marketing, right? He thinks that's a good way to learn sales, which is vital,
Mhm.
marketing, and so you get your support and make some money doing it. So I'm not saying anything negative about it at all. In fact, I would
Yeah.
absolutely look at that if I was going to get a license, which I'm not going to do.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm with you. No, I think the huge thing is it's being part of what they call the downline, meaning who are you affiliated with? I think
yeah,
there's probably some
totally.
people at the top of people's funnels that are very, singular mentality. They're not of growth mindset. They don't want to help another. We actually are part of what's called the Super Agent Collaborative, and it's for other leaders who are running their own teams. And we all focus in different areas. We happen to be kind of the investment experts, and so we're all working together, and we're ultra collaborative versus I was at other places and it felt insanely competitive. And again, I'm a competitive guy. I grew up an athlete. That's fine. I'll be competitive all day long. But people win because they do get a piece of everybody's overall
Right.
transaction. So there's that nice kind of affiliation there. But I think it's who you align yourself with, but probably like anything in life.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It when you're incented to be a team and have
Mhm.
everybody lift up, all the rising tide, right? So
Yeah.
if you're in that environment, I can imagine that's pretty powerful. So
Yeah.
all right,
It's
man,
been
we
great.
gotta get wrapped up here, but I have to say
Yeah.
this. So you
Okay.
telling me that your wife sold her business, right? That's a wedding events where you you have to be within 6 feet of each other
Yes.
right before COVID.
Yeah, it was insane. She had owned it for well, she did it for 4 years, then she owned it for 16 years. She bought out her prior, owner, and then had set the succession plan in place and was just working so much. That's one of the reasons why people, to your point earlier, they're like, "Why did you leave your dream job?" It was at the point, but we never saw each other. She was planning weddings, I was working game weekends. It just was out of control. And so she was in the process of selling it to her employee, and the deal closed on December 31st of 2019. I remember it being clear as day because she's a professional party planner. We had a really cool retirement party at a friend's house. We were all closed. People flew into town, and we were like, "What's this China virus? This is weird. What's going on?" It was February, and 2 weeks later, the world stopped. We were very nervous because we had a part of it as a seller carry to finance the sale of this purchase. So I was like, we could kiss that money goodbye. Like, there's no way. And to her gal Brittany's credit, we just worked with her and we extended some terms, and she's crushing it now. But yeah,
Good.
she looked really smart. She made it through it. It's now a third generation wedding planning business, which is cool. And then I think my wife wanted to probably take a little more time off, but I sucked her in. So it's been so cool. We literally work 5 feet from one another. She's involved in the design aspect of it. She doesn't do production. I'm sure some people are like, "Oh, great, the person's wife is the team lead." It's purely for more of like an accounting perspective and a culture building perspective. Her baby is designed for our flips and then running our co-work space.
Sweet, man. I was gonna say you have some crazy luck getting in 2009
Mhm.
and then exiting an event business right before COVID. It's pretty remarkable. My wife
Yes,
and I work together as well, so I could relate to that.
that's
Cool,
cool.
man. All right. Well, we do need to wrap it up, but I want to see if I can
Yeah.
get a little bit more advice for our listeners.
Yes.
Anything that you would think that we could provide, any value we could provide to them in this environment heading into the election? It's really scary out there, and nobody's making money. What?
Yeah.
How do we help them?
To me, I think it's two things, and I'm glad you brought it up this way. I think it's building up reserves. Hopefully, people had reserves. I think if people can focus on clearing 3 months of business expenses or personal expenses, that's a huge step. Try to grow that to 6 months so that when the what hits the fan, you can kind of make your way through it. And I'm a huge proponent of sharing wins and losses. I mean, we've done 89 flips, whether it's our flips or our clients' flips, and we've lost money on 4 of them. Well, 2 out of those 4 have been in the last 18 months. And we wouldn't still be kind of feeling optimistic and okay had we not had reserves. I mean, hell, I bought an office building, coming out of the second part of COVID. And so you have to have reserves. I think that's key number one for your audience. And number two, it's almost a piggyback. If you have some reserves, you can still hopefully have that mental fortitude to keep going. I think people that are just trying to flip one deal and make a bunch of money and it's all riding on one deal, that's probably a little risky. But, and it, having such success for so long, acquiring rental properties, acquiring assets, time heals most wounds and it makes us all look smart when we look 10 years later. But to your point, if you never get in and never do it, whether it's flipping a house, whether it's buying a rental, whether it's investing in a syndication or whatever else, you have to do it. But I feel like if you are kind of financially stable, and we call it having your financial house in order, both personally and professionally, I think those two things married together can be really powerful. Then getting back together, with your friend or family or colleague, and you both are at the same starting point, and one person just is light years ahead just because they did it. They still screwed up. We all kind of got our asses kicked in certain aspects, but those two things I think should hopefully help.
I love it. All right, cool. I'm gonna go through my notes real quick. This is how we normally wrap up the show. So I'm gonna go through what
Cool.
I learned from the show, and then you tell me if there's anything else I should write down on my notes.
Okay, fun.
All right, so we got started talking about how you're finding deals. We got to know you a little bit, then we went to how are you finding deals, and you broke it down differently than I've ever heard it before. But you said basically write a ton of offers, which I think everybody agrees with that.
Mhm.
But 50-50 on market, off market is kind of where you want to be. You're more
Mhm.
80% off market when the inventory's tight,
Mhm.
which is sort of where we are right now. But you went even a step further and say, kind of depends on the season. So you're
Mhm.
looking at inventory levels and the seasonality of that. And quarters 1 and 2 is more off market. Quarters
Mhm.
3 and 4, you shift your focus, your marketing team and everything. Well, not you didn't say the marketing team, but you shift your marketing efforts to online or
Yes.
MLS,
MLS. Yep.
on market. Um,
Yes.
Off-market stuff you're finding through cold calling, and you outsource that to a calling center and networking. And you said the number one way, and people are losing track of this, you guys, networking is vital.
Yes.
No foreclosure booms coming. And you want me to look at school to build a community, SKOOL, which I will do that. And then
Yeah.
finally, your last piece of wisdom, you need to build reserves, keep 3 to 6 months. And the reason for that is because time heals all wounds. So if you could be in it for the long term, any mistakes you made can be covered up. And that's, again, those are my words, not your words.
Mhm.
And then finally, what I love, you just have to do it, guys. You have to get in the game. Otherwise, you're going to be falling behind. And we say this all the time. The biggest mistake as a real estate investor or any entrepreneur is just not starting. So you just have to do it. So Derek, how did I do?
Well done. You took some seriously good notes. We just sent our oldest off to college, and I'm trying to like beat it into him. Like, this is how you succeed in school. So just take good notes and be present. So well done. That is spot on.
Well, Derek, I really enjoyed getting to know you. I'd like to figure out how we could work together more.
Yeah.
Maybe we talk more about this Elevation Academy and if I could help support that somehow, or I don't know how this would look, but there's got to be a way, man, that we could work
Yeah.
together on something. So let's talk offline about that. And with that, let's get your contact information. How do people get a hold of you if they're interested in being an agent, if they're interested in the academy, all the free classes you're doing? So how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. So, a couple of different ways. Actually, LinkedIn for me is pretty critical. We've put a lot of focus and energy into LinkedIn. So, you can just search me, Derek Marlin, DerekMarlin, on LinkedIn. Connect with me. We've got a lot of free resources there. From a Instagram and Facebook account, it is at Elevation Invest. Or, and we'll definitely have to do a pod swap, as they say. I've got a podcast and it's called Raising the Flipping Bar. So people can find us on any different major podcast platform, Raising the Flipping Bar, and hopefully get a lot of different information from us, or just our website, elevationinvest.com. So kind of any and all the above. Would love to connect with people and add value to whatever they're doing.
So elevationinvest.com. That's where I can get more information about the quarterly classes.
Yes. Yep. There's a link on there for the Elevation Academy. Yep. On the website.
Nice. I'll definitely go check that out. All right,
Yeah.
man. Well, I really appreciate it. And we went a little over time here. Well, actually, we're not doing too bad. We're about 40 minutes in or so. So I do want to say that I know your time is super valuable. You got a lot on your plate. You got a lot going on. A lot of people you're out there helping. So I appreciate it, Derek, that you came on and gave us 40 minutes of your time. So thank you. And to the listener, I know you have other things you could be doing, and you chose to tune in and listen to Derek and I rap about real estate. So we really appreciate you taking your time. Please, if you enjoy it, 5-star review. And with that, I hope you make this day a great one. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please be sure to follow and leave us a review. Oh yeah, and tell a friend.